and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Students, we are looking at an IELTS listening section today. It will be parts 3 and 4 talking about books and roads. Welcome Abraham. Hi Rubina. Hi everybody. This material, as usual, is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Students, I'm recovering from a bit of laryngitis. It means losing my voice. I'll write that here. So again, I'm kind of just recovering. You'll probably hear my voice is a little bit off today, but that's okay. This is a listening section, so I'm going to keep this class quite simple. Last week, we did listening parts 1 and 2 of this exam coming from our websites. So this week, we're going to do parts 3 and 4, and I'm going to keep the class to just a simple exercise class. So we'll go through parts 3, parts 4, we'll go through the answer keys, and maybe I'll have a little bit of chance at strategy. We'll see how my voice holds up. If I'm able to preserve my voice today, we'll have a speaking class tomorrow. I have a little bit of hot tea here to guide me through the class. You'll see me sipping through that. Shimanto Deb, we can probably get subtitles going. I don't think real time, but when you watch the recording, you will be able to get subtitles. All right, premium students, I did send you your links. You will have premium class this week as well. That's the plan. You'll have actually task 2 writing on the 20th and speaking on the 21st. For questions, just send an email to adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. All right, so students, we're looking at this listening exam. We're looking at section 3. In new exams, they'll call this part 3. And for, again, these materials, we'll go over to our websites. This is our general IELTS website here at gieltshelp.com. You can join the premium version by clicking this big red button right there. For the academic, it's aehelp.com. Again, you can click that big red button. Fill out the information, one-time payment, lifetime access, costs around $30 to $50 US, depending on where you are, and then you'll have access to all of the materials. You go to your My Student account, and then in your My Student account, you'll have computer-based practice exams, a full interactive course, lots more, and you'll also have access to the audio CDs. I'm going to play the audio CD for this listening section. You'll see the questions. Put on your headphones, listen, answer the questions. While you listen, you will not hear them a second time. Avoid putting the answers into the chat. We'll go through them together. So here we go, everybody. Let's do this. This will be CD 6. It's coming from exam 6. And we'll do each part separately. So we'll do part 3 and then we'll do part 4. Okay, let's do it, everyone. Here we go.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening, section 3. You will hear a radio host and his guest discussing the virtues of various art forms. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is the curator of a major art gallery in the city who has just released his second book on the virtues of art. We're pleased to have Mr. Edgar Patterson here today. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, and please call me Edgar.
Edgar, of course. Now, in your first book, published 4 years ago, you focused on performance artwork such as plays, musical concerts, films, and other such works. Your second book is a little closer to home for you. It concerns purely creative fine art.
Well, yes. It deals with the aesthetic virtue of different painting styles.
Okay, so give our viewers a quick rundown on what your book is about. Does it make an argument? I mean, does your book take a position on a certain issue in the world of art?
Yes. My book does take a position, and a rather radical one. The main thesis of my book is that the meaning we associate with a painting exists purely within ourselves. This is in stark contrast to many commentators who believe that the author of a painting gives the painting its meaning. Under this framework, if an artist intends his painting to represent the fear of an orphan child, then this is the one and only meaning such a painting can have. We might call this the intention theory of art. Conversely, my theory is that no matter what the intention of the author is, the meaning of the painting comes from the viewer. The meaning is exactly what the viewer thinks it is. This solves an important problem with the intention theory of art, namely that we do not have access to the mind of the artist, and therefore we do not have access to the painting's meaning at all.
Very interesting, Edgar. But doesn't the intention theory work as a sort of grounding for artistic analysis? What I mean is, while we might not know the meaning the artist intended, isn't the point of art to try to discern this meaning? If art is just whatever we want it to be or feel it as, doesn't that somehow make it less valuable?
That's an astute critique of my position, but one I have an answer for. My response is that art is not merely what we want it to be or feel it as. We can still participate in our critique and interpretation. All I want to say is, in the end, it is up to us to discern the meaning and value of paintings on our own.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now, let's talk about one type of controversial art, abstract art. How does your, can I call it a subjective theory of meaning?
Yes, that is fair.
Okay. How does your subjective theory of meaning apply to something like modern or abstract art? Art which doesn't tell an obvious story or have a clear meaning. Many people think that such works of art have no meaning at all.
It's certainly an interesting case, but one which my theory is well matched to deal with. You see, abstract art has its critics. Like you say, they think it has no meaning at all. However, other people think abstract works of art have all sorts of meanings. Now, under the intention theory, most of these commentators will be wrong, since the work of art either has a meaning or it doesn't, and if it does, then it only has a single meaning. So under the intention theory, only those critics who discern the specific meaning of the artist will be successful. My theory, however, results in each critic being correct in their own way. For example, if, after critically analysing a certain abstract work of art, I determine it is meaningless, then it is meaningless. Because the meaning of an artwork comes from within, I cannot be wrong, and neither can other people. The critic who sees a metaphor for suffering and the critic who views it as something entirely different are both right. We are all correct in our interpretation, as long as we've given the painting a fair critique.
What do you mean by a fair critique?
Well, I mean it is not enough to merely look at a painting and write it off immediately as meaningless. One must go through a certain process. That said, there are certainly other...
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, always use that time, students, to check your answers. Let me just pause the audio real quick here before we get to the next one.
Now,
Okay. All right, so we'll do part 4 in a moment. We'll just go through the answers together. I was giving you some tips there to guide you, to show you how to answer these questions and what kinds of parts of the questions you want to pay attention to. So everybody, this is part 3. It's more challenging. Part 4 can be even more challenging. Number 21, how many books has the guest written? They use the term first and second. So hopefully you realize that here the answer was B. They said it a couple times. The first book you've written, the second book you've written. So anybody who got B2, you are right. Welcome, Carolina, our chat moderator. Great to see you in the class. Anna, nice to see you. Olivia, Darana, Shimanto, good to see so many students. Hope you were listening, and even if you're not getting all the answers, students, as long as you're picking up some English, that is great. Okay. The next question was, what description does the guest give his book's thesis? He describes the book as being rather radical. Does anybody know what that means? Okay, it can't be a position, because that's what it is. He doesn't talk about the intention theory yet, so radical, B, is the correct answer. Radical means it's like a very different way of looking at it. So it's not the usual way. Okay. So far, we have the answer for 21 as B, and for 22 as B. Okay. He said run over. What was, he used the phrasal verb there. I wrote it in over this part here when he talks about the description, where he's basically describing it. If you missed that, check the video later, because I wrote the phrasal verb up here. Anybody remember the phrasal verb? Did anybody write that down? What the author said? Well, if you didn't, it's not the end of the world. Let's check it out. The book includes the transcripts, so you'll find it there. Okay. Let me have a quick look. There's a lot of really good descriptions in the back of your book, everybody. Make sure that those of you who have the premium access use that, okay? Okay, here it is. Yeah, so this is where they're talking, and see the host says, now in your first book, right? Boom, there it is, first book. And then in your second book. So that's how we know that 21 is two books, right? And then 22, he says, yes, my book takes a position, and a rather radical one. So this is exactly what they're saying. Okay. And then for 23, he says, conversely, my theory is that no matter what the intention of the author is, the meaning of the painting comes from the viewer. The meaning is exactly what the viewer thinks it is. This solves an important problem of the theory. Namely, we do not have access to the mind of the artist, and therefore we do not have access to the painting at all. Okay. All right. So look at the paraphrasing in here, students. Look at how that information is paraphrased. Okay. All right. Let's go back and take a look at the remaining questions. Okay. So here, the question is, which statement best describes the intention theory of art? Now, again, students, remember that with multiple choice, you want to think about that as a statement. So the best way to understand the intention theory is ... because that's how you will hear it. You're not going to hear multiple choices questions. Usually you'll hear them as statements. Okay, students, which one? The author creates an artwork's meaning. The meaning comes from the viewer. There is no meaning outside of the viewer's intention. And think logically. Intention theory. If you're making art, no, Risham, it's not B. The intention comes from the author, so the person who makes the painting, right? So the answer here has to be A. So for those of you who got A, you would have gotten it correctly. But there's a big problem with that, right? So what is that big problem with the intention theory, where it's the author who tells you what the painting is about? Well, logically, we can't get inside the mind of the painter, especially if they died hundreds of years ago. So A, we do not have access to the mind of the artist. Very good, Abraham. Okay. Filling in the blanks, you really want to listen to key parts and listen for the paraphrasing, and sometimes the speakers will actually say it directly. So number 25, according to the host, one of the main goals in art critique is to understand a painting's something, and the intention theory seems best equipped for this task. When we look at a painting, most people want to know what the painter was thinking, right? Like, what was the painter thinking? So the best answer here is meaning. And then the guest responds that art is not something we want it to be, but that we must also participate in critique and interpretation. And here you saw me put a couple of little like cap marks here. They're quotation marks. And the reason why I put those quotation marks there is because the author said exactly this, the author of the book. Okay. So the guest responds that art is not merely, very good, Risham. Merely, it's not just what we want it to be. Okay, nice. So those were the two words there. Good job. Okay. Then you have to fill out a table. When you're looking at a table, pay really careful attention to the headings. Look at those early so that you can really figure them out. So here you have a situation that's going to be described below, here, here, and here. And then you have to decide if the intention theory is correct or not, or the subjective meaning theory. So this is the author, and this is the viewer. Okay, so the critic thinks critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. The critic is right or wrong. So if you're looking at a painting, according to the intention theory, where the author gives the painting its meaning, is the viewer correct that the painting has no meaning, or are they wrong? Very good, Ibrahim. Very good, Rasham. Both are wrong. Logically, right? Because the painter always gives meaning to the work. So, wrong. Nicely done. Okay. And then in this next situation, the critic does not think critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. The critic is wrong, according to the intention theory, right? Because they didn't even give it time. And according to the subjective meaning theory, he is also, number 28, Ibrahim says, correct. Remember, Ibrahim, read carefully. The critic does not think critically. So if you just look at a painting for 2 seconds and you're like, meh, doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Rasham, very good. It would be wrong also, for sure. Okay. Why? Because the viewer didn't really look at it. So they would also be wrong. All right. And then here, the situation is the critic understands the author's meaning. Okay. So the viewer is looking at it. Let's say it's an amazing drawing of like a stick man holding a flower. And a cane. And smiling. And the critic says, okay, I think Adrian just drew a stick man holding a flower, holding a cane. Yeah, Risham says, right. Very good, Risham. So in this case, yeah, the critic is right. Okay. So those are the answers for 27, 28, 29. Now this 130 is called an inference type question. This is where you have to read a little bit of information. They usually seem trickier than they are. Students in the real IELTS, so they're usually not as tricky as they look. You just have to read it. So an art critic is viewing a painting for the first time. Okay, like you're looking at that stick man that I just drew for the first time and wants to critique it using the subjective meaning theory. Okay. Determine whether the critique has satisfied the constraints of the theory with regard to the painting. Okay. A, the critic is satisfied, so the critic is doing it correctly, or the critic has not, so they're doing it wrong. This question is kind of related to the table that we just did before. So here, number 30, the critic looks at the painting for a moment and concludes from its initial impression that the painting lacks aesthetic value. Aesthetic value means that it's not beautiful. Aesthetics is the study of beauty, or the concept of beauty. Okay. Anytime you learn a new word like aesthetic, you should write down the other word that you might know, not beauty. Okay. So in this case, did the person do a good job? No, because they didn't look at the painting. They just looked at the painting for a moment. Okay. And that's not good. According to the author, this person talking, whether you're one person or another, if you're looking at a painting and you want to give it a fair opinion, you have to look at it for a while. Yeah, absolutely, Risham. Part 3 can be quite challenging for people, and it can be a similar topic. Yeah. Okay, so here the answer is B. Yep, a lot of students, be careful, students, with the materials that you're choosing to learn for the IELTS. A lot of students are watching videos online and picking up books that are not the same difficulty. So make sure you have the right ones. We tested our materials, so they're the same difficulty. Those people who have done the IELTS exam will say, oh yeah, I saw part 3, that was just as difficult. The Cambridge past IELTS exams are good to look at, and our materials are good to look at. There's actually just a few. There's a lot of bad materials out there, so careful. Okay, students, let's go to part 4. This one, there's no break. You just hear all of the answers. So again, answer all the questions. Some people actually find part 4 a little bit easier just because it's one person talking. Okay, Ibrahim, 5 out of 10 is not bad for part 3. If you're getting 6 or more on part 3 and 4, that's good. Okay, remember part 1 and 2 are a lot easier. Okay. All right, let's do this. So back to our website. Again, for those of you who don't have access to the premium course, just click on these big red buttons at aehelp.com or glshelp.com. Here we go. Let's do listening part 4.
Turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about road infrastructure and its connection to economic prosperity. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Roads have been connected to economic prosperity for millennia. The first roads were thought to have been created by repeated animal grazing, and then utilized by humans as ready-made routes for travel between adjacent lands. These roads, evidence for which exists going back 12,000 years, were likely not connected so much to economic prosperity as to survival itself. These roads allowed hunter-gatherers faster access to greater swaths of land. The first paved roads were used in ancient Egypt about 4,500 years ago. Historians theorize that these roads were the first roads used for trade in our history. These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares for the transport of goods, certain goods from certain areas could not be transported by boat, and this necessitated the creation of roads for economic reasons. The Silk Road, though not precisely a road, is one of the most famous trade routes in history. Composed of many types of road, the Silk Road stretched from China and Thailand in the east all the way through the Middle East and terminating in Western Europe. These different routes of the Silk Road brought myriad items from the east to the west, including, of course, silk. This brought economic prosperity to China and surrounding regions for many centuries. The Silk Road was so valuable for commerce that it persisted for over 1,500 years. The Roman Empire was the first major manufacturer of a system of roads. At its height, the Roman Empire contained 29 major roads, totaling over 75,000 kilometers. That's enough road to go around the world twice. Notably, this is almost the precise total length of the modern United States interstate highway system. These roads connected the vast lands of the empire and brought an intertwined economic prosperity to the diverse regions of the empire. Furthermore, the roads were used for military transportation, giving the Romans a massive strategic advantage over their less advanced adversaries. Through the Middle Ages, roads continued to be built and used for trade and commerce, though technological advances were virtually non-existent. Though tar-based roads were used briefly in the Arab Empire in the 8th century, this technology would not take off for another millennium. Today, our roads and highways connect our communities, countries, and economies. They are the modern trade routes by which we are all connected to each other. The modern world would not be possible without the vast expanse of road infrastructure. One interesting development in the history of road infrastructure was the advent of underground systems. The first such system, the London Underground, opened in 1863. Such subterranean routes greatly increase the volume of human life that a city can sustain, thus increasing that city's economic output. London would not be a fraction of the economic powerhouse it is today without its underground rail system. The same can be said for virtually every other major economic centre. Underground systems are the next generation of economic generators. While roads move goods which create economic prosperity, underground systems move human capital, which creates further economic prosperity. What is the next great advance in ground transportation? Some futurists have theorized about a system of tubes propelled by air pressure or other means, which would transport individuals vast distances in short times. Such a system could move humans at unprecedented speeds, perhaps with an economic footprint far less than that of subterranean networks. Such tubes could even be built underwater. Imagine such a system connecting New York to London or Tokyo to San Francisco. It would be incredible. Whatever lies ahead for humanity, roads have gotten us to where we are, and they are very likely to play a prominent role in getting us to where we will be next, in one form or another.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Check those answers, students. I'll be back in about 10 seconds and then we'll go through the answers together.
Battle for the world's tallest building. The desire to construct taller and taller structures has been a part of human culture for at least 4,500 years. Dating back to ancient Egypt and through to modern day, the construction of tall structures has mirrored advances in technology, logistics and engineering.
All right. Yeah, my throat's getting scratchy, so I'll see what I can do. At least I'll give you the answers. Okay. What phenomenon created the first roads? Number 31. Yep. Animal grazing. Though roads were necessary, what was a better way to move goods or products? No, not building supplies. Read this. Read the sentence, students. Here, let me play it one more time.
Now turn.
Allowed hunter-gatherers faster access to greater swaths of land. The first paved roads were used in ancient Egypt about 4,000. These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares for the transport of goods, certain goods from certain areas could not be transported by boat, and this necessitated these roads allowed hunter-gatherers faster access. Historians theorize that these roads were the first roads used for trade in our history, to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares for the transport of goods, certain goods from certain areas could not be transported by boat, and this necessitated the...
Everybody catch it? Key word here, though. And they flip it. Here they say though roads. There they said though what? Anybody catch what came after though in the audio?
These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares, for the These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares.
Very good, Ali. Very good. It's rivers. Yeah, if not roads, right? If we're not transporting goods with roads, we're transporting them with by river. Okay, or in this case, rivers. Okay. Yeah, with an S, Ali, exactly. Which of these roads total approximately 75,000 kilometers? They said two. I helped you there. I wrote them down. What were they? It was the Roman road system and the US, right? So 1 and 3. A is correct. Very good, Ali. Very good, Aditya. Very good, Patel. And why did the Romans make those roads? Economic prosperity, military transport. For this type of question, students, always try to catch and write down the answers so you can figure it out. It's not for the city of Rome, it's for the Empire of Rome. So A is wrong. Increased mobility of Roman armies, that actually matches military transport. Rapid technological advances, no. The importation of luxury goods from China, they did not talk about that. That was the Silk Road. Broad economic prosperity for the empire. So the correct answers are B and E. Okay, those were the two. So that's for 34 and 35. All right. Hopefully some people got that. If you got one, you got 1 point. If you got both, you got 2 points. Okay. All right. So the next 4 questions, you have to figure out if it's ancient roads, subway system, future transport, or all of them. Increased economic activity. Economic activity means to move money, right? Old roads, did they move money? Like, did the Silk Road move money? Subway system, does the subway move money? Businessmen, businesswomen. Go to a shopping mall and buy something, take the subway. I think yes and yes. Future transportation. Do you think in the future we'll be moving value, money, value through these? Yep. Abraham says, okay, I get where you're going, Adrian. It's got to be a D. And it is. Very good. All right. Responsible for the growth of modern cities. Modern cities. B, subway. Can't be ancient roads. Can't be future. Right? Abraham, modern cities means now. Patel, modern cities is now. It's not future cities, modern cities. Okay. Used for military transport. Well, remember the Romans? Hey. Definitely don't put soldiers into a subway. And I don't know about the future. That's A. Moves human capital. So it moves people. Ancient roads, subway, future. I think all of them. Right? Keep it simple. Very good, Legend Boy. Will move humans. Will move humans. C. DBADC. Those are your answers. Students, fortunately my voice did hold out, so there you go. I was almost didn't at the end there. But here's a question for you. What did you get out of 40? Especially if you were here last week for part 1 and 2. How did you do? What did you get from 40? You can always check your marks on the websites. Okay, so at the bottom of our website is the score calculator. I'll drop that link. And so, like, let's say you got, I don't know, 32. You got 7.5. You got 33. 7.5. 34. 7.5. 35. You got an 8. Okay, so check it there. Check your marks there. Students, I do plan to be better for tomorrow, so I'm going to take care of myself today and just take a rest. If I'm not, I'll let you know. So I'll in advance, I'd just remove the class. But for now, I do plan to be better. So hopefully my voice is. I think it's getting better. And I do plan to have the premium classes. I feel good. It's just my voice. Anybody from the beginning of class remember what it's called when a person loses their voice? Might as well learn the English, right? If you don't remember anything else from this class, I remember that. And we'll also see who joined the class at the beginning. What is it called when a person loses their voice temporarily, not permanently? That's a different thing. I'll teach you that one too. Carolina says, get better. I plan to, Carolina, thank you. So what is it called when a person loses their voice temporarily? Anybody? I shared that with you at the beginning of class when I was explaining that I'm going to be a little bit faster today. It's the same everyday term as it is the medical term. It's called laryngitis. Okay. Laryngitis. Okay, and we say you have laryngitis. I have laryngitis. Okay, if somebody loses their voice permanently, though, anybody know what that's called? That person? Anybody know? So on your remote control, it's called a mute. Or that person is called a mute. Okay. So learn those words. They can be useful if you've gone partying too hard or if you caught a bad cold like I did and then used your voice and then you lost it. I don't have the cold anymore, but I didn't get my voice. Okay, so keep that in mind. Those terms. Okay, students, so hopefully all is good tomorrow. I'm going to rest today. If it's not good tomorrow, I might still have a very short speaking class. We'll see. But hopefully I feel a lot better. My voice is a lot better. Premium students, task 2. And speaking, for those of you who want all of the materials from our websites, check out aehelp.com here. Click those big red buttons, or that one, and this one, that one, big red buttons, get you the course. General IELTS, gieltshelp.com, same thing, red button. Have an awesome day, everybody. And I do look forward to seeing you tomorrow. My plan is to have a fantastic class then. So take care, enjoy the day, and we'll see each other same time tomorrow. Much love to all of you, wherever you are in the world today. I'm Adrian, and I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Bye for now, everybody.